You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Got a different feeling week this week for the Minor League Baseball podcast show before the shows. We welcome you into today's episode, which you are getting a few days before you're normally used to seeing us arrive in your podcast feed. Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler Vaughn. Sam Dykstra is in New York City. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Tyler.
This is a different. Ordinarily, this week you'd be getting set to head to Secaucus, New Jersey, to MLB Network, to the Major League Baseball first-year player draft. Obviously, that is not going down in 2020 the way it has been in years past. But we're still here to provide some pre-draft analysis for everybody.
Yeah, and what would have been even weirder this year is that this draft was supposed to take place in Omaha initially. Which would have been part of the College World Series. Yeah, it would have been a really cool atmosphere anyways, and hopefully more players, especially college guys, would have been able to attend. That didn't go down this year. I was looking forward to maybe going and maybe finally going to one of these runzas that you keep talking about, but
they're fantastic.
Hopefully next year.
I would have been very much looking forward to it for you on your behalf. I would have been excited for your first runza experience.
Well, maybe next year, and that'll be the whole podcast next year. It won't be anything else.
Oh, goodness gracious. So, so we welcome you into this week's episode of the show before the show. This is the first of two episodes this week, and we're going to cover the Major League Baseball first-year player draft here today, which starts on Wednesday. 7 o'clock Eastern time. So much to discuss with the draft. Later on this week, we'll be following up with another episode, kind of one of our more traditional, I guess, episodes. This one will be a little bit quicker. We'll go with a draft preview. We're going to hear from a guy who is very familiar with the draft process, having gone through it just a year ago, and one of the top prospects in the Miami Marlins organization, JJ Bleday, who will join us. And obviously, there is so much more going on right now in the world than just baseball and trying to get baseball back on a field and the draft and all that kind of stuff. If you have not listened to last week's episode yet, very much encourage you to go back and listen to that. We were joined by Kansas City Royals prospect Nick Heath, who is just incredible for us to talk to, and he voiced so much of what he was feeling, and told us several times after the interview was done and even on social media how happy he was to just be able to share what was in his heart regarding the killing of George Floyd and the protest movement and everything that has come up since then. We talked to Nick for a while last week. I think that interview ended up going over 30 minutes on the podcast, but it was fantastic, and we've got such incredible feedback from it. And Nick is just as good of a guy as he seems to be on social media. We could tell by talking to him, that's all, you are just a real good human being. And it was really great to talk to him. So if you have not listened to that interview yet, we really urge you to go back and listen to that from last week. Today we're going to talk like I said, a little bit more just on the baseball side, and we're going to dive into this draft. We'll hear from JJ Bleday, and we'll wrap this up. A little mini episode for you this week, and then we'll catch you again later on in the week. But, as noted, the Major League Baseball first-year player draft will be here on Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, Wednesday evening. The first round will get started. This is a vastly different draft from really any in Major League history. Ordinarily 40 rounds. It has been sliced down to 5 rounds for 2020. I know that's led to a lot of players already pulling themselves out of the draft, deciding they're going to go to college, all that type of stuff. There are so many new factors in play this year. Sam, what do you anticipate seeing? Obviously, we'll talk about some of the top talent. We basically already know who the top pick in this draft is going to be, and we'll talk about him coming up here in a little bit. But what do you anticipate Wednesday is going to feel like?
Yeah, that was one of the weird things about writing a preview for this. And by the time you guys see this, the Toolshed preview will be up. Consider this kind of a companion piece to that, but go find that on the site. But thinking about how every draft year is different, and there's a whole new cast of prospects that come in, and we're talking about different types of talent. Some years it's skewed towards high school players. I think about a couple of years ago when Royce Lewis, Hunter Green, and Mackenzie Gore were in the top 3 picks. Some years it's going the other way towards college guys. And this year it's a little bit more of a college heavy draft, especially on the pitcher side. And we'll get into that later. But then you think about what's the big story here. And the biggest difference is that there is no day 3. All 5 rounds are going to be televised, which is pretty neat. It's never really happened where we've been able to watch an entire draft on TV. And that's kind of exciting for you people at home. But there are 35 rounds of the draft that have just been completely truncated off. And it's going to be years before we see what the actual effects of that are. With the weird thing about the Major League Baseball draft, in the ways that we don't talk about other drafts, the NFL draft, guys get taken, they're immediately put on the top team, right? Like those are franchise building. And sometimes immediately we're seeing the ramifications of those drafts. MLB, it's always going to take a couple of years just because of the development system. We get them here first in the minors, then they became major leaguers. But this draft especially, we're not going to know what the ramifications are for years away because some teams are only taking 4 players. The Astros and Red Sox only have 4 picks in this year's draft. Other teams get to take a little bit more, but it's not enough to completely build up a farm system. There's no minor league baseball happening right now. There's no short season teams to be filled out. It's part of the reason why they cut it to 5 rounds. And there's other things that might be coming into place about what minor league baseball is going to look like going forward. But there might be a time 3-4 years from now when we wonder, why is this rookie class so small, or why isn't it filled with the talent that we used to see coming rolling in every year? And it's because a draft like this happens where only 5 rounds of players are selected. There's a couple non-drafted free agents this year, but they can only sign for at max $20,000. So you're going to see, as Tyler mentioned, you're going to see a lot of high school guys who may have been taken the 6th, 7th round. Okay, we'll take some of the savings from our early picks. We'll give it to you, try to talk you into joining the pros. You can't do that anymore if you weren't drafted. So a lot of these guys are going to go to college. Maybe they'll go to junior college where they're eligible for the draft next year. I'd be interested to see if anybody takes the Carter Stewart route and goes overseas for a couple of years and gets paid to play professionally in Japan, South Korea, places like that. And then by the time you're 22, 23, you're done with that contract, you can come back to the States. Is that going to be an option? We'll have to see. I think college baseball is going to be flush with talent next year. But in terms of this draft, it's just going to feel weird. You asked me the question, Tyler, to open this segment. What is Wednesday going to look like? Wednesday is going to be basically normal. We're going to take the first rounders. We're going to take the competitive balanced round A guys, and everybody there should probably sign just because the money is still the same. There's going to be deferments. You can only get $100,000 of your signing bonus this year. Half of the remainder will come next year. The other half of that remainder will come in 2022. But still, there's going to be so much money on the board that it would be silly for a first-round pick not to sign unless they really don't get the money they're looking for. So that part's going to look the same. It's rounds 2 through 5 that are going to potentially look weird, and then this whole undrafted free agent situation, that's going to look really weird. You're basically only going to see college seniors sign for that, maybe a couple of college juniors who know next year they have no leg to stand on when they get into the draft. But I'm not going to be I would really be surprised, I should say, if any high schoolers who aren't taken in those 5 rounds end up signing. It's going to be a very old class when all things are put together, looking at who enters the professional ranks through this process in a couple of years down the line.
Let's talk talent in this draft. It has seemed for a while like a foregone conclusion that Spencer Torkelson, the phenomenally named first baseman from Arizona State, will go to the Detroit Tigers with the first pick. After that, it seems like virtually every mock draft that you see, it gets jumbled from there on. I know in the latest MLB Pipeline draft, Jonathan Mayo has got Austin Martin, the third baseman / outfielder from Vanderbilt, going to the Orioles at number 2. There's also some discussion about Nick Gonzalez from New Mexico State, who was a tool shed subject earlier on in the spring, that he could go at number 2. Jonathan's got him going at number 4 to the Royals. He's got Asa Lacy, the left-handed pitcher from Texas A&M, going at number 3 to the Marlins. But it seems like it's Spencer Torkelson and then a lot of question marks right now.
See,
and not question marks in terms of the talent, obviously. Question marks in terms of where are these guys going to fall.
Right. I almost see it as a big 3. I mean, that's the way it seemed to shake out to me, is that, as you mentioned, Spencer Torkelson going number 1 to the Tigers is basically all but hammered out. I mean, there might be a 5% chance they go elsewhere. They go take Asa Lacy because he's a really good talent coming out of Texas A&M and a pitcher. But it seems like they're going to take Torkelson at 1, and then Austin Martin and Asa Lacy in that mix for the Orioles at 2, and then whoever of those two whoever of those 3 is left for the Marlins will just pick that up. So it seems like there's a big 3. There's constantly rumors going around right now that the Orioles, who have the biggest signing pool right now, might try to go under slot at 2 and take, as somebody you mentioned, like a Nick Gonzalez or maybe even a Zach Veen, a high school outfielder out of Florida, come to some pre-draft agreement with them, use some of that savings to get whoever drops to their next pick. Obviously, that's a little bit of gamesmanship, the Orioles being what they are right now. You hope they're turning the corner in their rebuild, but they still need to add all the talent they can get. And if they can get, a top 10 talent with the number 2 pick and then a top 20 talent with their next pick later at number 30, that would be pretty good. I still don't see how they leave somebody like Lacy or Martin on the board. It seems like they're going to take Austin Martin, one of the best hit tools in this draft, somebody coming out of a strong program at Vanderbilt. There are a couple questions about him defensively, where he's eventually going to fit. You mentioned he's a third baseman. He's also played center field. He's also played a lot of places on the infield. Where do you fit him? But when the guy's got close to a plus hit tool, an above average run tool, you take him and then you don't worry about it. You'll figure it out later. So I think it is that top 3. It's if that falls into order, Torkelson 1, Martin 2, Lacy 3. That's what I would bet right now. It's like 4 through 10 that I think is that next tier, and then things get jumbled real quick. You mentioned the Royals at number 4. Do they prefer a hitter? Do they prefer a pitcher? They obviously have great pitching talent in the system right now. Do they look elsewhere? Do they really value Nick Gonzalez and what he was able to do this year and last year at New Mexico State, winning a national collegiate batting title and putting up really good power numbers, albeit at an extremely high elevation, hashtag Coors, if that exists for New Mexico State. But yeah, I think the question marks come after the big 3. It's possible the Orioles could pull the rug out under from all of us and make us question that. But I would be surprised if that Torkelson, Martin, Lacy mix, if they don't go 1, 2, 3, then that'll be a surprise for me.
What else about this draft? I know later on in the draft, a lot of really kind of high floor college arms in that first round, especially. It seems like there are a lot of guys who could make relatively quick impacts. But when you look back, you've been doing these Toolshed retrospectives on the last several draft classes. A few years from now, when you look back on the 2020 draft class, what's going to stand out about this first round?
Yeah, I think it really is going to come down to what type of risks are teams willing to take on high school talent right now, given what the financial status of the game is right now. I mean, we talk about these bonus pools as if every team's going to use all of their bonus pool. We don't know if they are. We frankly don't know if that's going to affect their draft strategy. Some teams might be like, hey, we're going to punt the draft this year. We're going to take super safe guys. We know we can sign all for a below slot, and we're going to take that savings and we're going to pocket it because we're not making money right now. That's a possibility until we see otherwise, frankly. So what happens to high school guys is somebody like Mick Abel, a right-handed pitcher, and I know a lot of teams don't like to take prep right-handers because of a history of development and how difficult it can be. Does he tumble out of the top 15, the top 20 even? I don't know if that's going to be the case, but given all that's in play right now, our team's going to lean towards safe players. I'm going to be watching that. One player I think that's fascinating in this draft is Max Meyer, coming out of Minnesota. Just 6 feet tall, but his stuff is killer. He's got a plus fastball, a plus slider. Everything would be there for you to think, okay, this guy has dominant starting pitcher written all over him, except for his size at 6 foot. So what does that do? Is there going to be a club that's like, listen, we'll take on the reliever risk just because the stuff is so good? And because the stuff is so good, we're playing, hopefully, knock on wood, given all the things that are out there about the negotiations, we could be playing in a truncated season. Meyer's stuff could be good enough to make the majors right now. do you just stuff him in the bullpen and see like, hey, let's see how this goes? Like that would be a lot of fun. And I feel like with taxi squads and expanded rosters and everything should be on the table. I don't think Spencer Torkelson is going to make it to Detroit that quick just because they don't need him and they're not going to compete this year, no matter the size of the season. But if a team on the edges of the top 10 takes him and says, hey, we're going to go for it because it's 50 games and anything can happen, that would be a lot of fun. So, are there going to be teams that prioritize potential, not necessarily major league readiness, but high floors, like you said, Tyler, and people with college pedigrees who can move quick and potentially help out the club this year? That'll be really interesting. So I don't think we're going to know the full extent of this draft and what it all means until it's done. And we're looking back on it and we find out, some high school pitcher who would have been taken in the 8th round this year and probably would have signed, ended up going to South Carolina or Florida or UCLA or Arizona State or something, became a really dominant pitcher, and instead of being molded by a major league organization, was molded by a college staff. And all these teams missed out on him because of this truncated draft. I think that's going to take years in the making, even more so than we normally say.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting a few years from now to hopefully society has returned to normal and we will have a long-form story on the maybe back end of the top 10 round athletes who ended up going a different route, going to college or going wherever, and seeing how they've evolved. Put that in my good ideas folder. Pam, put that in my good ideas folder. We are obviously going to be covering the draft at MILB.com. We will have stuff up on the site. There's already stuff up on the site looking back on the last few draft classes as Toolshed has been profiling, and also in addition to our Road to the Show pieces about recent draftees and all that kind of stuff, Sam's preview stuff as well up on the site. And with that, we're going to hear from a guy who was this time last year in this conversation on his own. The Miami Marlins have really amassed quite a collection of talent, and we get a chance to talk about that this week with JJ Bleday, the second-ranked prospect in that Marlins organization, the top outfield prospect in that organization, and a guy right now only behind Sisto Sanchez in that system as far as prospect rankings go. A selection in last year's Major League Baseball first-year player draft in the first round, the 4th overall selection. JJ Bleday joins the show next.
As an official partner of minor league baseball, Nationwide is here from life's first pitch to the 7th inning stretch. Whether you're looking for protection for your house, car, pet, or small business, Nationwide offers a wide range of products and support to make sure you're getting the right coverage for your specific needs. Visit nationwide.com for more information on how we can help take care of what you have today and plan for what's ahead. Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company, Columbus, Ohio.
Joining us this week from the Miami Marlins organization, and a guy who is on the fast track toward Miami as we get hopefully closer to some baseball in 2020, is outfielder JJ Bleday, first-round selection of the Marlins last year. JJ, what's going on, man? How are you?
Nothing much. Thanks for having me, guys. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So tell us, obviously we've started off every interview over the last few months just kind of checking in with guys to see where they are and what they're doing, and it's such an unprecedented time. I mean, you'd probably be in AA if not AAA by now, and instead we're all kind of in this holding pattern. What have the last few months been like for you since spring training was called off?
It's kind of a weird situation, like you just said, but honestly just kept it pretty simple, like an off-season training routine, which is Monday through Friday, doing something baseball related. And then I lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 total bodies a week. And then take the weekends off and kind of just enjoy some downtime, really still when you can. But really just kind of keeping that anticipation to just be ready and in shape to go whenever.
How nice is it as a guy who was a college player last year, selected 4th overall, jumping into pro ball? That's such a long season. I mean, for high school guys, it's long enough, but for college guys, you guys basically get started in January. You're not done till September, October. It's obviously not a situation that anybody wants, much rather be playing baseball, but what are the benefits of coming off of such a long year and now having a little bit more time to rest and get ready and all that?
I'd say the main benefit is your body. You're not roughing up your body as much as you would be on a daily basis, and it's not like it's really you're beating yourself up like football. It's just you're doing the same thing every day, and you're not getting as much rest time as you would per se in college and in college baseball. Pro ball, you're playing every day, and you just got to make sure you're taking care of yourself before and after games. And in this case, we don't have any games, so just make sure you're taking care of your body on a daily basis to like I said, anticipate that go point whenever they call you.
And you mentioned before, this is basically an off-season routine that you're working through now, but in between what was a normal off-season for you and this weird off-season we're in now was spring training camp. You got to go be a part of Major League camp for a little bit as a non-roster invitee. What did you take away from that, and what takeaways are you still carrying into your workouts now as you try to round out your baseball profile?
Oh, those are good questions. Right now, in terms of spring training, it was just blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do that my first spring training. That's just it was an awesome experience. Learned a lot from a lot of the big league guys there. Guys like Corey Dickerson, Brian Anderson, Miguel Rojas, and many others. And just to be able to see, like I was talking about before, how they take care of their bodies, their routines when they get there, what they're eating, when they lift, and just how they're managing their time in order to go ready and be prepared to compete in the game. And it was just cool to watch that on a daily basis and to be around that, because it really does motivate you, and it keeps you wanting to do that and strive to win ball games. And then on the other hand of that question, or the other question, just keeping those reps and those whether it's outfield or hitting, just making sure they're high focus reps, and you're not wasting energy, energy on your body. It just helps the focus, makes it more game light, and it keeps that training more randomized, so that when a game does come around and you are starting to take at bats, you've been here before and you're ready, locked and loaded, and not waste any of those opportunities.
And I want to jump back further. One of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the show around this time was because we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the MLB draft, when, like Tyler said, you were taken in the first round by the Marlins, 4th overall. But I want to talk to you about, when did you know that you could be a high pick? Because your career at Vanderbilt was an interesting one. You were a starter, as a freshman. You played a bunch, 50 plus games as a freshman. You play a bunch of games as a sophomore. You're basically playing all 3 years, but you really exploded as a junior, hitting 27 homers, leading the nation in that category. At what point did you feel like, not only am I a good draft pick, because going into Vanderbilt, a lot of guys expect that, but not only that, but a high draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that, I knew it since high school. I knew I wasn't ready to be a high pick in high school, and I knew I wasn't developed enough. But I knew way back then that if I keep working, if I keep developing and growing as an individual and as a baseball player, you're going to have a chance for success at Vanderbilt. And to me, that was kind of my mindset going into college. And to be able to have a junior year like I did, and to be able to win a national championship with an unbelievable team from 1 to 9, and a great staff, and pitching staff and coaching staff, to be able to do that, it's just really a really cool situation. And sorry, second part of that question.
Oh, that was basically it. It's just like, when did you know that not only were you going to be a good draft pick, but a top 5 one, like especially that high?
So probably around SEC tournament, it was just one of those situations where, hey, you've done everything you can to put yourself in a good spot to get picked. And now no one really knows when they're going in terms of draft day. Yeah, anything can happen. But I knew I had a chance to be a top pick from that SEC tournament, and even before, maybe a little bit in SEC play. But like I said, you just put yourself in a good position, and you can only control what you can control. So you just kind of got to sit back and embrace every moment in that process.
And before that junior year and before that SEC tournament, you were known as a good hitter. You hit 368 as a sophomore. You had a good cape, but like we mentioned before, you led the the nation in home runs with 27. You go from 4 as a sophomore to 27. That's a big jump. I know there were some oblique issues back there in 2018, but what allowed the power to make such a significant jump for you in your third year on campus?
I think it was one, you're getting a little bit stronger each year as you're just maturing, and you're more comfortable in the box. You're missing less pitches. You're able to be more disciplined in your approach. And when that happens, something clicks, and you're able to keep that routine and keep that consistency of not missing pitches, and to be able to take advantage of certain counts and in certain guys in certain scoring position. So you're just overall you kind of have a feel of how people are going to be pitching you come that third year, your junior year, and you're able to if you take advantage of the time right in the off season, you're able to prepare and make sure you're honing in on your approach and not missing.
JJ, let's go back to high school. You are a Pennsylvania native, play a couple years in your home state, and then go to Florida for your junior and senior year, which is a place where you really get to test yourself against a different level of prep competition. What was the decision process like for that? I mean, was it a family move or something that you did with an eye on baseball? Take us through your 4 high school years that set you up for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so freshman and sophomore year, I was in Pennsylvania, which was where I grew up at. That's my original hometown. And my dad took a job offer down here in Panama City, and he actually ended up operating on my high school coach's father, who kind of got in contact, and I was able to. So once the family moved down here, we were able to go to the high school and develop a relationship with the coach and finish my career off in high school, which it wasn't easy, but it was sure worth it, because the level of competition down here in Florida is much better than Pennsylvania, just because of the weather and there's just more schools and a higher population of people. So it was definitely the right move, and definitely looking back, it was worth it all.
How do you think that helped prepare you? You go from a state that's got some good high school baseball in Pennsylvania, but you jump into a hotbed like Florida, and then all of a sudden you're in the SEC. I mean, you make 2 hugely substantial jumps. How did that move to Florida help get you ready for SEC ball?
I'd say it just it goes to the level of competition. You're facing more college prospects in the high schools around here in Florida, just because the level of recruiting, I think, is more highly scouted in this area than it was where I was, particularly in Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and other parts of Pennsylvania, there's some great competition. But around here, that was probably the game changer to get ready for SEC play, because one, the coach down here in Florida was with a college coach, so he gave you a mentality and an idea of having a culture to win state championships and to be able to just win ball games. So it was just coming out every day on a daily basis and able to compete for a job and make sure that when you get an opportunity, you're making the most of it.
And I want to, speaking of SEC play and jumping back to what we were talking about with Vanderbilt, you guys won a national title last year. Take us through that College World Series route. Not only are you dealing with the draft and trying to figure out where you're going and then maybe eventually signing, I'm sure you left that until after the season, but the potential start to your pro career with also a run to a title. What was it just like around 12 months this time last year?
It was just it was surreal. It was too good to be true, because like you said, you get picked, you win the SEC, you win the SEC championship, and then you win the national championship. It just, the stars align, and it is just, you couldn't have drawn it up any better. So it was just one of those humbling experiences where you guys got to sit back and embrace it. You just got to say, hey, we've all worked hard for these situations, and you just kind of got to go with the flow of things. And when I got drafted and then ended up signing and coming down to Jupiter, again, it was a cool situation to be challenged right off the bat, and to be able to be in high A and really show really get back in the groove of things and just show yourself and challenge yourself to compete on a daily basis. So it was just one of those things that just couldn't have drawn it up any better, and just an overall fun experience.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Jupiter because I was going to bring that up. And what was that transition like, going from playing in front of Raptors fans in Omaha and at Vanderbilt to the FSL, which, was played in a lot of spring training parks. Jupiter, at least you're close to Miami. A lot of Marlins fans around there trying to get to see you. But jumping straight to high A like that, what was the transition like in terms of competition, parks, the whole thing when you went from Vandy to Jupiter?
Yeah, well, one, guys are throwing way harder, more consistently, I'd say, on a day-to-day basis. Whereas in SEC play, I'd say, those Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday games, there's guys that are throwing that a high velocity, but definitely in pro ball, there's a more quantity of them for sure. And then you got the heat, you got the rain almost on a daily basis. So you may be playing a doubleheader 2 to 3 times a week when these games are getting canceled. And then the ballparks are big. Yeah, the ballparks are big, and the heat. So it's a bunch of things that play in effect, but it helps you grow as an individual and as a player to be even more prepared when these situations occur. So, I was really appreciative of the Marlins starting me right off the bat because, they trust me to go out and challenge myself, and that's one of those things that you can only ask for. So it was a cool situation. And, I'd say those are the main things that were the difference.
Yeah, when you're talking about hard-throwing pitchers or any part of that environment, what do you remember as your welcome to pro ball moment? Just the game, maybe it was the first one, maybe it's your first at-bat, but at some point, when did you realize, A, this is my day job, and B, this is going to be a lot harder?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd say my welcome to pro ball was probably the first hit. Just like one of those experiences where, like, hey, this is a new chapter, and just got to make the most of it and do the best you can to achieve what you want in this game. So I'd say that was probably the coolest, or one of the starting points in that. And then I'd say when it was my first away trip is when I realized, like, all right, this is it's definitely tougher, was in Tampa, I believe. I didn't know it was Port Charlotte. It was Port Charlotte. We're facing the Rays high A team, and I think I hit my first home run there, but I think that might have been my only hit that whole weekend. So I was like, all right, yeah, welcome to Pro Bowl. So it was just a funny situation, but one you got to look back and embrace because it's only going to make you better.
JJ, the start to a pro career, you get so many very quick ups and downs, I would imagine. But then you get all this time to decompress and kind of analyze it and figure out where you want to go. If you were going to evaluate yourself coming into this year from kind of a scouting point of view, what are the things in 2020, let's say we were living in a normal world where we were already into a season right now, but what are the things that you most wanted to be able to progress with this year?
I'd just say getting my reps. Just getting as many at-bats and as many opportunities as you can, because ultimately that's the best way you can just get better at baseball. I mean, in every aspect of your game is just playing as much as you can. And to me, that's all I was looking forward to. I felt very confident after big league spring training and going into minor league spring training, to body physically wise and mentally wise, with whether it's your swing, the way your body's feeling strength wise, and the way your mind's feeling. So I was just looking forward to getting at bats in order to keep going out and just proving yourself.
There are so many guys in that Marlins organization right now that are just really dynamic and exciting talents. And I think, several years ago we would have looked at that system and thought there wasn't a whole lot there. And now you look at it and think that's sneakily one of the best systems in baseball. And the thing that they've done so impressively is you're the second-ranked prospect in that organization according to MLB Pipeline. 3 of the other top 4 around you are guys that the Marlins have acquired via trades, and that system has been so reinforced. What's it like being part of a wave that seems like it's headed toward making some really big things happen in Miami really soon?
It's awesome. It's a great opportunity. It's so much fun to see like the level of talent and the level of depth we have in the organization, and it's just fun to be a part of because what can make this team special and in order to help contribute in any way possible. So it's just one of those things to look forward to and to keep working on because, That's where everyone wants to be. That's where all those guys want to be, is in the big leagues. And to have that competition and that camaraderie is just a cool aspect in order to become a good winning organization.
Yeah, and there is a transition there as well, I feel like, especially with you coming off, like we said, a College World Series win last year, the highest of highs of college baseball. Now you're in a rebuilding organization that, hopefully by the time you make the majors, the Marlins are ready to compete on a day in and day out level. But what is that transition like, just going from the expectation is so high in Vanderbilt to Miami, where it's, hey, this is going to be a long road until we can reach those same heights?
Well, I wouldn't say they're really much different. I mean, listening to Don Mattingly in big league camp, everyone wants to win. Regardless of what you may have, these guys are competing their butts off every day, and they're wanting to win, from staff down. And in terms of that, it wasn't really that much different. I'd say the only thing that was different was, you're closer to more guys just because you're spending more time with them. On a day in and day out basis, whether it's class or, hanging out on the weekends. In pro ball, you may not get that as close, but you're still with those guys on a daily basis. But it's no different at all. Everyone wants to win from top down.
All right, and one other last thing we wanted to ask about is, there's so many things being thrown out there right now about what baseball could look like when it returns, and one of them is an expanded major league roster up to potentially 30 players on the active roster, and maybe a taxi squad of 20. As somebody who's probably going to start out this year at AA, I feel like you could be on the cusp of that taxi squad. Is that something you're thinking about? How much are you being looped in terms of what your status could be whenever spring training 2 eventually starts, hopefully here in a couple weeks? How much are you thinking about, hey, I could be a quick step away from the majors here in a little bit of time?
I haven't really gotten much information from the organization. I don't think really anyone has. So the only thing I've really been thinking about is just make sure I'm ready to go whenever anyone calls and anyone needs me, and whenever we got a report. So I can't control, and I haven't really thought too much of the taxi squad, even though it'd be a fantastic situation. To me, my mindset is just to make most of the days in between and the days ahead, and make sure you're ready to go regardless of where you're headed.
All right. Well, we always end our questions these days without minor league baseball, not knowing when it's going to return, what it's going to look like when it does return. We've asked every player at the end of every interview this, and you may have answered it before, so feel free to repeat yourself if you need to. But what so far during your time in the Marlins system has been your favorite minor league moment?
Favorite minor league moment? See, I only played, I think, 40 games in the minors, so I feel like I haven't really been there that often to develop a bunch of memories. But, favorite one. I don't know. I just say playing some intense ping pong games before and after some games. I'm talking intense. There's some good ping pong players in the Miami Marlins organization. I'll tell you that right now. You got Braxton Garrett, Humberto Mejia. You got some good quality talent in terms of ping pong on that squad. So that's probably what I remember most of the intense ping pong matches.
It's a pretty good place to be for your first season. Those are where the relationships are built, like that stuff off the field is how you know everybody's got your back on the field. That's big stuff. Yeah, no, that's huge camaraderie. It's just fun, like competing with one another in little games such like that. That's just can't beat that. That is awesome. JJ Bleday is the second-ranked prospect in the Miami Marlins organization and number 28 overall, according to MLB Pipeline in the 2020 Top 100. And JJ, stay safe and be well. And thanks so much for giving us the time today. And we'll hopefully be seeing you on a field real soon.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.
Which Copa La Diversión hat is the best? Now is your chance to crown the champion of all 92 Copa Caps via the Greatest Gorra Tournament, presented by Eco Outdoor Power Equipment. The recently launched campaign provides you, the fan, a chance to win exclusive prizes from Echo and select official on-field Copa hats while celebrating the cultural contributions of Hispanic communities through culturally relevant on-field identities. Be sure to join in the fun and vote at MLB.com/contests.
Wrapping up this early week episode of the Show Before the Show. We'll be back with you again coming up on Friday, and we are going to have a really cool conversation on this is such a moment for social justice in our country. We're going to have a conversation about a moment for that in baseball coming up later on this week. Some stuff that's already on social media as of today, but we don't want to spoil it. We'll have that conversation later on in the week. And again, if you didn't get a chance to listen to our interview last week with Nick Heath or 2 weeks ago with Josiah Gray, we've had some really great conversations on this show over the last couple of weeks, and those two really stand very large in the context of where we are at this moment in society. And for now, we'll think about the draft and what is coming on Wednesday. And later on this week, we will give you some reaction to what came in the draft. As if you're a Tigers fan, be excited. Everybody else, be excited, just maybe in a little less certain way, because that's what draft week is all about, right?
Yeah. You're going to instantly find out who your team picked and then probably be like, wait, who was that? And we'll have that for you.
So we got it all coming up on the second edition of the Show Before the Show this week. And until later this week, he's Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you then.